Welcome back to the channel, guys, and if this is your first time here, welcome. Currently we're going through rebuilding this little off-road teardrop camper that I got. We've made a ton of progress so far, from repairing the old damaged wood to adding some additional structure to it, all kinds of upgrades. And today we're kind of down to just about the last step, which is doing the electrical. So let's dive into what that looks like. This camper, when I bought it, just had a lead acid battery, a light on each side of the camper, some lights inside, and a fan. We have added some things and are continuing to add some electronics, so we need to make sure that we are set up for that all to run properly. Step one was getting a battery. So I ended up identifying this 206 amp hour SOK battery. It's a lithium battery. So this will allow us to discharge it down to pretty much zero compared to a lead acid, which you get down to maybe 50% and you're done. So we have a lot more capacity now with this. I do have one main issue that I will touch on in a minute though with this, that I'm an idiot and I did not account for. So we've got our battery, picked up this NOCO Genius onboard battery charger that we will end up mounting in the tongue box as well. And instead of having to lift the tongue box, run the cable out, I've got a bulkhead here that I will drill a big hole into the tongue box, and this will get mounted into it. So then now we just need to hook the extension cord up to this. So those pair together. Inside, one of the main things I wanted to do was be able to monitor the battery charge. So to do that, didn't want to spend a shit ton of money. So this was, I think, $79, something like that, but it's a Renogy onboard battery monitor. Tells you your battery status, amp usage, wattage usage, etc. So I think that's going to be nice. Still need to figure out where we're going to mount that. Also, kind of paired with the battery, I ended up getting a battery disconnect switch. And if I didn't mention it already, I will try to drop links to all this stuff down below in the description. So if you're trying to do something similar, that might help you out a little bit. Not affiliate links. I'm not fancy enough. Just links there to try to help you guys out. So ended up going with the Blue Sea. It was like 24 bucks. The off-brand one was like 15. So I figured probably worth it to spend the extra 10 bucks for a good name brand one. Running inside the cab, or inside the camper rather, there currently is a Blue Sea fuse block inside that is a 6x that distributes power to the lights and fan on the camper. I have this old 12. I have a 12 Blue Sea fuse block, so I'm actually going to swap this in instead of that 6 to give me a little bit more capacity to add things potentially down the road. And then that 6, I'm actually going to run back here to the back because I'm going to be running 12 volt power to the rear of the camper, primarily for the fridge and for charging batteries, drone, all those kinds of goodies, and potentially anything else that may come up. So we're just going to run a single 12 volt back, so I'll need another power distribution. So we'll put that 6x Blue Sea fuse block in the back here. And then to power and charge all the electronics, found these little guys on Amazon. Are they gonna last? I have absolutely no idea, but I'll let you know. But it's got a little flip up cap, on off button, and it's got 2 USB ports as well as some PD ports. So these are 3 amp, which is nice. So that should help charge up fairly quickly. So we got 2 of those that we're gonna be installing. Then inside of the sleeping area, there currently are 2 little ports like this for charging USBs. They're just 1 amp or 1.5 amp and wanted a little bit more juice, so I found these. Similar concept, a couple USB ports, a couple PD ports, and these actually have a little voltage screen in the center. Don't know how valuable that's going to be, but these will be super easy to just replace the existing ones. Holes are already drilled. I'll just pop those out, install the new one, pop the connectors on, and we'll be done with that. Then lastly is the fridge. So the IceCo comes with either a 110 charging port, so a traditional wall outlet, or it comes with a cigarette lighter. So 12 volt. I've heard just from so many people that those 12 volt cigarette plugs always come undone off-road, or even just driving down a traditional road. So I actually found this cable on Amazon. Again, I'll drop a link, but it's the same power connection as what the fridge has on this end. And then it's got an Anderson plug. So I'm gonna end up running this through and up, and it'll be somewhere back in here. Again, haven't figured it out yet. And then we've got the mating Anderson plug to run to our fuse block. I think that'll be pretty good. And that's pretty much everything. Now, I mentioned there's an issue with the battery. That's a big bitch. And I admittedly never checked the dimensions on it. And I've gone through all this hassle with my tongue box to get it installed and modified my tongue jack handle and all that. And it's too tall. With the post coming up the top, it's about 1 inch too tall. And when the lid closes, it sits right on top of those terminals. And it doesn't close all the way. So at this point, I don't really know what to do because I'm very limited depth-wise on this tongue box. And the only ones in all my searching so far that I have found that are any taller are also quite a bit deeper. And for aforementioned reasons with the tongue jack handle, distance, breakaway switch, I can't really go any deeper. So I'm at a loss right now as to what to do. I have sent an email out to SOK to see if I'm able to mount that battery sideways. I don't know if that's going to void any warranty or cause any potential damage to it, so I don't want to do it without knowing. If I can, then I think I can mount it in here sideways. And that would get us by. And then I'll just 3D print some brackets or something to keep it in there, locked in place and safe. So enough rambling on. I was going to start at the front, install, and work my way back. We're going to hold off, obviously, on the battery, cutoff switch, and charger. And for now, we're going to start inside the camper. We're going to get the original fuse block that you can see installed down in there. We're going to pop that out, replace it with our 12 by that I've got sitting in the back. And then we'll replace these and we'll just work our way back. I'm going to be running the wires underneath the bed because I really didn't want to plunge underneath the camper and go external. And I have no clue how the hell to run wires through the inside of this. I have some conduit so that way the wires are going to be protected. Should be no risk of fraying, shorting, anything like that. We'll run the wires back, up, out. We'll be good. Let's get to it. First we'll pop off our negative and positive. Get those cables out the way. So these are the cables coming from the battery. Boom. All right, so this one we will end up installing then in the back of the galley. So I'll go get the bigger one and we'll get it popped in. All right, apologize for the horrible lighting and filming. This is kind of a tight spot, but I'm gonna try and do this around the camera. Cool. I'm just going to continue this process till we get all these back in. Got all the pre-existing terminals back on to their appropriate fuses. Now I'll just get the negative terminal stuck on here. And again, apologize for not showing you all this, but it's not the easiest thing to work down in here and try and get a camera shot. Come on, you. God damn it. Okay. Is this even thread on there? that. Then these spades just pop off. Take out the old one. Now, the kit does come with some new wire bundles if you're just starting fresh with some ring terminals on the end. But since we already have the existing wiring, you really just need this. And it is marked negative there on the left, positive on the right. So the polarity does matter when we get this installed back in there. So positive is towards me right now. I'll just run this collar up and thread it on. That's it. New one installed. Shit's a pain in the ass. Minus 2 fingers and working deep down inside of here. So I'm gonna get the other one done up just the same. Right over there. And we'll work our way back with some wiring. Okay, now what we need to do is get power run from the front to the back, because there's currently no power back there except for on the back hatch. But that's all run up above in the ceiling, and I don't know what the hell they did. So what am I gonna do? Conduit. I can do it. I got the smallest size that I thought would fit the wires that I need. And we're gonna run this tucked in this bottom corner down here from the front to the back. We're gonna be running, have my buddy who's nerdy with electrical stuff help me figure out an appropriate wire size based on amp draw and distance that we're running. So we're gonna be doing 10 gauge wire. I'm gonna run both the black and the red through the conduit to the back. There we go. Okay, we've got the conduit run. Got to run through the hole here. Now we'll head to the back side and get it run up through the bottom out into the galley. All right, we got our, it's about a 12-inch section inserted in there. Now we'll just make our center mark up here. Should be, honestly, actually, I think it's nuts on. Bet I couldn't do that twice. So that lines up perfectly with my pilot hole. So we'll just drill that out the same way. We'll do a counter bore and then my through hole. All right, just like that. That's run up through there nice and tight. We'll get our clamps installed and take our nut. Reach back in here. And thread it on. This is going to be the cubby for all the electronics. So I'm going to go ahead and get our fuse panel installed. And because it has screws that are going to protrude through the back, I don't want those going into our cabin inside there. So we're actually going to mount this on the inside right about there. So we'll get that screwed in, and then we will run our wires. I think I'm going to run them from this side until they pop out in the front. Hopefully they pop out in the front. And then I'm currently waiting on the 3D printer. I mocked up a bracket to attach both of these together on a single bracket. One, just to keep them together nice and clean, but two, because these wires come out and the back is completely flush. So these are designed to poke through. So I made the bracket such that those wires have a place to go, and this can sit flush up against the bracket, and we're not going to pinch those wires. So that'll be done in about 2 hours. So in the meantime, yeah, we'll get this installed. Alright, now we can see how well this stuff fishes through there. And if you're doing this yourself, you know, I'm using 10 gauge, but I spec that for the loads that I'm expecting to see between my fridge and all these electronics. 10 gauge might not be what you need. And the distance that your wire is running is also something to factor in. So before you go and just buy 10 gauge, you want to double check that it is appropriately sized for your situation. Give it a pull test, that looks good. And that's also good. There we go. Now, last thing I need to do as far as that power run to the back is just get an appropriately sized fuse in there, which I need to go figure out what size fuse I need. Heat shrink. I always try to play with the natural flow of the wires and then orient my terminal just so it all wants to play nice. Ooh, that was not a good crimp. And that is why you always want to do the old pull test. Much better. Now we've got our power in for our distribution panel back here. Just got a fuse installed for these wires, so if everything went smoothly, we should get a voltage reading. This battery's pretty low, so it's only at like right about 10 volts. So let's check it. There we go, 9.9 volts. We have power. I always like to double check stuff like this as I go, just in case I did make a mistake. If you check after every step, it's a lot easier to diagnose compared to getting completely done and then having an issue. All right, hot off the press. Here's our new mount for our USB ports. So I've got the cutout in the back there so that way the wires can run through this channel and not get pinched. And then we'll just wire those over to the fuse panel. And because this is such a tight quarters here, probably not going to film it, but we're going to connect those to that. All right, now we need to fish in our wire for the refrigerator. So it's going to be located right here with that Anderson plug up on this wall. So I need to drill a hole through the base here and then through the back of the cabinet into where the fridge is going to be. I'm going to do that right underneath this cabinet in the sleeping area, so that way the cord just makes a quick 90 and it's not ever going to be in the way. All right, here's both of our holes. Okay. got most of the other electronic stuff knocked out, shy of everything that needs to go in the tongue box. Battery's too tall for the tongue box, already covered that. Well, there pretty much doesn't exist a tongue box that's shallow enough in the depth or in the depth direction, but tall enough for my battery. Maybe I might have found one that was like $300, which not doing that. I've looked at like Pelican cases, other utility boxes. I can't find anything that's gonna fit here and work. And again, it's just because it's such a short tongue on this trailer, and lid needs to flip open, and we have some obstructions with the jack and breakaway switch, etc. So I'm doing something that I think is pretty stupid actually, but it's like the only thing I can think of right now. And it gives me an excuse to use my new welder because I have gas set up for it now. Boop. Got a nice 120 cubic foot tank. We're gonna cut this son of a bitch in half and make it taller because why not? I know the footprint works. So we're just gonna raise the roof on it a little bit. And I happen to have some steel on hand. It's thicker than the box. That's better than being thinner. So I've got these straps here. It was one piece, I already cut it down the middle. We'll get these cut to their respective lengths. I'm gonna cut the box in half. Again, trust me, stupid, I get it. You would think there would be an easier solution. I can't find it. At least not without spending an arm and a leg. And I'm already down a finger, so I don't wanna do that. We're just gonna weld it in. Just space them apart, probably add about 1.5 inches or so. That way I've got some overlap still. Spend a lot of time welding. Unfortunately, both are powder coated, so I also need to spend some time grinding. I'm going to spare you all the grinding so I can get some clean metal for welding, and we'll touch back when I'm welding. So this isn't going to be the prettiest, I can assure you. But I've got a couple pieces cut out here, and I've got no magnets or anything, so we're just going to have to make do with what we got. I do miss welding. All right, we got the tongue box mounted back onto the tongue. Heightened, looking delicious, not really, but is what it is. After I threw some paint on there, it definitely looks better. Currently, I just have the battery sitting in the box, and I'm actually designing up some mounts for the battery so I can bolt the mounts through the box and then have a cinch strap that goes around the battery. The other stuff I think we can mostly go ahead and get installed. So right now I just got sort of a rough mock-up of some of the components so far. First thing, we've got a breakaway or a breaker switch here. So if we end up drawing over 60 amps, that'll cut off and we will have no more power. And then I also have just an on-off power cutoff switch, primarily for battery maintenance. maintaining battery level, I guess. So I've already got wires hooked up. Fortunately, I had enough power cables lying around. I'm gonna go ahead and get these two bolted in here, and then we're gonna get the charger installed. Oh, god damn. That's hot. Well, I pity the fool that ever needs to take this battery out, because I did not make that easy. I ended up 3D printing out of some PETG some pretty heavy duty mounts for the battery. So it's locked in there pretty damn solid. Obviously time will tell if they hold up. I made sure they fit, but I did not admittedly account for the installation process. So it's in there, but I'm not looking forward to ever having to take it back out. All right, I ended up doing a couple things since I last filmed. Let's take a look at what we got. Pretty much done. Got some wires I need to tidy up down here, but you saw I drilled out the hole for the port for the charger. So we now have a 110 port here that we can just hook up an extension cord to charge. That runs to the charger. The charger cables run to our terminals. Then we have our hot for the camper running to our breaker, from the breaker to our breakaway or our power cutoff, and then power cutoff to the battery. On the negative side, we have our battery going also to the charging cable, but also running around here to our shunt, which is used in conjunction with our battery monitor. So you end up wiring that in series on the negative side. So negative from the battery to one side of the shunt, and then the negative on the camper side to the other. And then there's a small power wire that runs also to the hot end of the battery, which provides power to that, which then powers the battery monitor. Tongue box is done. I did discover today, however, with garage door open, direct sunlight, this box gets hot as shit. I've got one of those infrared thermometers, and it was pinging at like 155, 160 degrees, and it wasn't an insanely hot day. So that's not good. I'm going to have to come up with some solution to help cool the temperature of this box. Whether that be painting it a lighter color, putting some sort of reflective coating on it, I don't know yet. But that is something I now am going to have to figure out, because that's going to get toasty, especially say we're driving through Utah on a midsummer day. She be cooking. So that's good. Pretty much the last thing I need to do is figure out, I have mounted our battery monitor here, 3D printed a mount for it, which looks mighty delish. The wire I have run down inside into the bottom here, and I need to figure out how to get that wire out, because that ends up plugging into the shunt that I just showed you. The downside, it has about little over a half-inch effective diameter plug on it. And straight down from where that mount is actually somewhere here in this radius of the front of the camper. So somehow I need to figure out where to plunge through to try to come out where the power wires enter into the camper. Don't have that figured out yet.